Hello and welcome to the Our Metroidvania podcast. This is Cauldrath from the Our Metroidvania subreddit and Discord.
Hi, this is Master. I'm also from there.
Hi, I'm Atcero, and I'm the local Mitru Yamani simp, which I may or may not have used before. I don't remember.
Probably you have.
Probably.
I mean, you're just always a simp for them.
She deserves it.
But yeah, today we are going to discuss Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom.
Yeah.
And watching me playing through the intro here.
How much did you speed up this footage by?
8 times.
Yep.
Oh boy.
I saw the file, I'm like, damn.
I
Well,
think the game would be better if you could play it at 8 times speed.
maybe 4 times speed. I think 8's a little excessive.
Yeah. This is definitely fast.
This game does do an interesting thing where it has those blue blocks that bounce you into the background areas,
Yes.
but it only uses it like, I don't know, 3 times.
Oh, that's
I
kind
was
of
going to
sad.
say the same thing, and then you said both of the things I was going to say. Stop doing that. Oh yeah, the background thing was cool. This game is structured a little weirdly, like I guess in how the biomes progress. Because later on, like every room is just an activity room, and but earlier on, some of the biomes feel like they're more of a linear platformer, how they're laid out. And there are plenty of rooms where there's just some monsters or something, and there's not the room's activity.
Well, I think it's like that the whole game where it's kind of like each room is like its own little linear challenge, and then after you progress through enough of them, then it like goes to a new area.
Sure, but I mean, having a basic platforming and combat area feels a lot different from like Switch puzzle or something. And I think that a lot of the activities are disproportionately in the later half, whereas in the first half of the game there's more variety, I guess, in the types of rooms that you encounter.
Mm, I guess I could see that. I did feel like one of the things this game does well is it does have a variety between like platforming puzzles slash activities and combat.
Yeah. No, we didn't even introduce this game. What is Monster Boy in the Cursed Kingdom?
You play as a boy who is a monster going through a cursed kingdom because your uncle is a drunk fucker who can't control whatever the fuck wand he's got. That's at least
Yes,
what I've gleaned.
the game starts off with, oh no, all the boys have been turned into monsters.
And the
And
girls.
by monsters, I
Yeah,
mean
everyone was.
anthropomorphic animals, and by the boys, I mean everyone in the village.
Why you're drunk as fuck uncle?
Yeah. So that happens, and then, oh yeah, on screen a moment ago was the linear running section where you had to dodge the thundercloud who inverted your control.
Ugh.
Oh yeah.
That was the game's first taste of perhaps not the best designed enemies, but it wasn't bad.
I mean the reverse controls debuff is kind of a classic thing.
It is. I mean, the way the cloud moves around is a little imprecise.
Yeah, it seemed pretty
And
similar to Lacatus. It's
mm,
like combining two classic things.
yeah, but yeah, it's fine. I like that little zone. It put pressure on you as you were running through it to not get shot a bunch by the evil cloud.
And even if you kill the cloud, it just comes back, so it
Yeah.
just you
He
can't remove
respawns
the
really
pressure.
fast. Yeah, like early on the that second biome, or you go to the sewers second. After you go to the village, the first biome is the green fields.
Mhm.
That's where the cloud is. And that was a pleasant stroll, I suppose. Kind of a small platforming, just running through biome that serves as connective tissue on the map. A couple of those. At some point we should pull up the map or pause on the map. We can break down the biomes.
I don't know if Sarah has it set up so she can pause it.
I don't think I can pause it because it's a video source.
Oh no, this is so sad.
However, let me see if I can do this quick. Settings. Nope, I just restarted it. I'm sorry. I cannot. Because I believe if I turn away right now...
So now we're just gonna watch all that again.
Yes.
Wow.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thinking about it more, I guess the linear platforming parts were mostly spaced out. I mean, it's mostly just the green fields and the graveyard that are actual, like, linear action areas.
I think pretty much all the dungeons wind up being that way. Like there's like a central area, and then it goes out into usually like 4 different directions. I think you actually mentioned this in Discord.
Did. Every dungeon is just get the 4 things, and then you do the thing with the 4 things.
Yeah, and then the
Full
process
of
of getting the
notches.
4 things is like just a linear set of like rooms.
Right, but it's a linear set of activities a
Yeah.
lot of times. I wouldn't say that they're the same as say, the graveyard or the fields. Though, I wouldn't say that combat is this game's strong point either. So I'm not saying there should have been more combat in it.
Well, at least like most of the enemies will go down pretty quickly. Some of the later enemies probably have too much health. Like there was a bit of a difficulty spike when the like penguin guards show up, and they just do way too much damage and take way too much damage.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how much damage enemies do. I mean, I suppose it could also be an equipment thing, me not having like a full set of armor,
Well, the
but
the equipment doesn't do that much. Like the best equipment, like the best armor in the game has 3 dots of defense, and then the worst has 1 dot. And you get 3 dot like armor, like the artist armor can be 3 dot, and that's like halfway through the game. Well, no, less than that. Like a third of the way through the game that you can have that.
I got the ice armor set around the volcano area and just used that the whole game.
And you can do that.
I think it had 3 defense.
Yeah,
But
that was the only 3 defense armor I had, so that's the one I used. Like I didn't actually use sets for most of the game.
enemies will just 2 or 3 shot you in this game later on.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, actually. One thing I've noticed is I never really used the spells. Maybe it was intended to use those to supplement combat, but it didn't really. They're kind of awkward to use because you have to switch to the pig.
You have to
Pig
switch to
doesn't
the
have
pig,
equipment.
and then like they have well, I guess you can change in the options whether it uses the radial menu. But the radial menu didn't felt pretty clunky.
Yeah, I never changed settings for that. Maybe I should have. The radial menu felt a little inconsistent at times. Like it wasn't always registering my inputs.
Whereas when it let you just press the like LB, RB to like switch spells, that felt pretty responsive.
It did, and then you get enough spells, and suddenly it's a radial menu. It's like, what the heck is this?
Well, enough being 2 spells.
Yeah. Right, I thought when you had 2, you could swap between them without the radial menu.
Oh, it might be 2.
I mean, you start collecting spells pretty quickly, so it
Yeah.
wouldn't be much of a difference either way.
Right. And the radial menu does make more sense the more spells you have.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it can be convenient. It just
yeah.
wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, I've gotten used to like counting and just how many times I have to press the button.
Yeah, and there's enough radial menuing already with the swapping between the characters. Maybe it was the characters where maybe when you only had 2, the radial menu doesn't show up. I don't remember.
And I think now that you say it, I think it was when you get the 3rd one that it gives you the radial menu.
Hmm. This game makes you collect a lot of stuff. The
Yeah.
stuff you need. Mostly keys. Though sometimes it's at least an interesting looking key. Like using the boomerang to switch through a wall.
Yeah, this room kind of exemplifies an issue I have with this game where like this jump over here, you have to jump like right as off the edge of the left side of the platform. Um, right when it's at the furthest left point. So it's pretty easy to miss the jump. And then if you do, then you have to walk back to the right position, wait for all the platforms to line up again. And it just winds up being really tedious, especially with the spider respawning. And you kind of have to kill it because it's right in the way.
I agree, the respawning enemies, I think they hurt the game a bit. They just make everything more obnoxious and there's less room for error, there's more tedium because you have to fight the enemies in the game when you haven't even cleared the room. It's fine if you have like the cloud respawn because he's the main threat in that room. And that room is kind of designed around you dodging him as you run through the field. But I don't think it works very well when you're trying to solve an activity and you have respawning enemies.
I think it's like if it's supposed to be like a tight platforming section, then the respawning enemies just makes it annoying. But then if it's like a chase sequence, which the cloud section is more like, I think that makes more sense for it to be respawning. Because like if you just kill it, then you're negating the chase completely.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, overall, I did find the enemies to be fairly annoying in this game. They're kind of just there to annoy you. To go between activities. That's the best way to describe it.
Like this game seems like it's a little bit controversial in like some people think that it's like a top 10 game, and then some people think it's just like kind of bleh. But it's like no one hates the game.
I have mixed feelings about it. Because it does do activities fairly well. It has a large variety of just random stuff in it.
Yeah.
A lot of rooms are fairly unique in that they just utilize lots of random mechanics, or maybe it's a creative set piece. So I can see why people would like that. This game is great for variety, better than Castlevania games for variety.
Rude.
I know
Not
people.
enemy variety.
Well, no, but I mean, in Castlevania, the way you fight enemies is mostly the same, whereas the way you interact with different activities is different. That's why I make that comparison.
I like steamrolling my enemies with a giant axe, thank you very much, in every Castlevania game. Rude.
Yep. So overall, what did everyone feel about the environments in this game?
From the two I saw, I enjoyed them. But from what I can see, they're very lively, they feel different. They're not just, the same thing every time. And that's that's hard to do, especially with this kind of game where every asset has to be drawn. So mad respect.
I think the viewers are obligated to know, if they don't already, that you played like 20 minutes of this game, Atcero.
I did not manage my time well this month. I will admit it. I should have, but I did not. I do want to play it though, because it does seem like a really fun game for me that I would enjoy. But I didn't.
You seem like you're the one of us three that would like it the most.
I know. I have not had a week. I have not had a weekend free in like 3 months. Not 3 months. Sorry, a month and a half.
Too busy with that ESO.
No, I've been freaking out of town. I've been just gone. School, and I got a test next Friday.
What was up with the wall with the cork, by the way?
I didn't get it in this run. I don't remember if I got it in the previous one. So I don't remember what it is.
Whenever I'd get something new when I was in town, I would just like try it on the wall. Having a kind of central looking secret thing it's a good design choice, I think. Though the sign next to it is a bit too much. I think it would have been better if they just had this weird looking thing that was suspicious instead of telling you this is the suspicious well. The game does tell you a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a little bit hand-holdy.
I mean, like, in the gameplay, it's not too handholdy. It just will often have like a pig thing you sniff out, and it tells you kind of what to do or where to. I guess it is handholdy with a lot of the activities where you have to think about what you're doing, because there will just be a hint that tells you what to do. Though you have to switch to the pig and sniff out the hint to read it, I guess. But then again, you don't know if it's a hint or if it's something that's mandatory for the activity until you sniff it, so. A little weird. Yeah, the environments in this game all look pretty good. I mean, the art is great. It has a lot of personality.
So
The character animations are cute.
I think that if you look between the separate zones, it has good variety, and then like if you look at individual screens, it looks good. But like within a zone, it doesn't really it seems kind of samey. Like there's nothing that like jumps out at me as like, oh, this is this like specific landmark that isn't really memorable.
I agree completely, but I find fault in the way the game is structured with that and not the assets used, I guess. So that's a fair point. Because the way it's structured is just a linear sequence of activities. So you don't really, I mean, the lack of landmarks, I guess, is one thing, but also you don't really feel like you're exploring a place because you're not exploring a place, you're just going through a sequence of activities. And you never really feel like you're exploring much because of that.
Oh yeah,
which I mean,
that frog boss that just came up. I think it's a pretty good boss because it like combines the combat with like a platforming section, kind of like an Ori 2 boss, where it'll like alternate between a chase sequence and a fight.
I remember having some problems with the bosses. I don't remember what they were, but overall I thought the bosses were pretty nice. Um, hmm. Some of them are more puzzly bosses that have you utilize the mechanic you learned, and then I don't know, I guess I'd need to see the list of bosses because I don't remember very many of them.
That's a bad sign in and of itself, but
It is.
we should we don't need a list because you should eventually see all the bosses as
Yeah.
we go progress through this.
I mean, the game does have a fair amount of bosses that show up, I guess.
Well, generally it's like right before you get any of the new forms, you fight a boss related to that form.
Yeah. But then you've also got, like, um, you have bosses that aren't tied to forms.
Yeah.
So, yep, fighting bosses definitely more fun than fighting regular enemies.
Yeah, I feel like most of the regular enemies aren't like most of them aren't combat focused. They're just like there to break up the platforming.
They don't feel like they were placed with thought in mind as to how the player should overcome the obstacle, if that makes sense. They kind of just exist everywhere, placed
They just
randomly.
they just
They
put
don't feel
them there
like,
just to for the sake of we need enemies here, so
yeah,
scatter them around.
yeah, they kind of just feel like were just randomly placed around, and they don't actually supplement the platforming most of the time. I mean, these flower enemies, the enemies are part of the challenge, but also they're not coded like actual enemies. Um, and they're there. I don't remember what it is. Might have been something was. I forget what I did. It might have been those flowers. It might have been somewhere else. But in one of those sections, you couldn't kill them, which is kind of odd. A complaint I have with this game is that a lot of interactions feel like they're very awkwardly hard-coded in, and then like the way they're coded changes based on the room. And it also feels like mechanics are like the same mechanic works slightly differently in different areas. That makes me think that the areas were designed by different people.
So like this was obviously made by a large team. So um it makes sense for them to split up the work that way.
Yeah, it does. I liked the laser boss. He was cool. At this point, the snake platforming, if you can call it that, was starting to wear a bit thin, and doesn't really get better because the game forces you to use it a lot, kind of arbitrarily at times.
Yeah, it winds up feeling like one-dimensional platforming because you're almost always attached to a wall.
There was this one segment, I think it was in the volcano area because everything bad was in the volcano area. It had extremely awkward dodging enemies while you were on the moss. But then you had these parts where whenever you turn a corner on the moss, it kind of like pushes you. When you move around the corner, it moves you forward as well, and you turn the corner instantaneously. So it leads to a weird situation where you have to have this precise timing in order to move onto the corner and not move right into the enemy that's in front of you. But yeah, a lot of the snake sections just felt like, well, here's the mandatory snake section we had to have because we need to have one every X many rooms.
Because you're not going to use the snake if you don't have to.
Yeah.
They couldn't just make the snake better.
I mean, some of the uses, I mean, I don't think it was all bad. And having kind of side stuff, side platforming challenges, I guess, revolve around using the snake is fine. Oh hey, we just got to the part where you have to answer questions. Man, what a waste of time.
Wait, you have to
I
answer
like how
questions?
you answer. The first time I got there, I answered the first 2 questions right because I have a memory, and then it got to the 3rd question, and it was like, "What's my favorite food?" And because
Favorite food.
they can't have you just skip the punishment for not knowing the answers.
Yeah, so there was that knight there with the big shield that you were supposed to have the double jump, but I just brute forced it instead, and then
Yeah.
like went the other way, and there was the double jump.
Interesting. Frog form's pretty fun. I like his tongue. Rotating rooms around is also the closest thing you get to like actual puzzles in this game. Well, I don't know about that, but it's like an activity where you have to decide what you want to do before you do it, instead of just interacting with it in the only way you can interact with it. So
Well, there
that's
was
nice.
one rotating room puzzle in the castle that I was not a fan of, and that's the one where it's like you can't see like behind, like there's a bunch of foreground objects, so
I
you
remember
can't
that.
see where you're going.
I mean,
You
I
just
get
had to,
what
like,
I kind of get the intent that it was supposed to be a cool activity, but I didn't really like it either. It was just kind of annoying, unfortunately. But I didn't hate it or anything, and it is just one activity you encounter a single time.
yeah.
And I think because of the sheer breadth of random stuff, random types of activities you have, it's expected that some of them aren't very fun
Yeah.
for you. And I guess you could say that's a plus, is that you'll probably at least like some of the activities instead of hating all of them if you don't like activities.
Well, it was a mandatory activity, so it's better if you have ones that like more people are going to dislike as optional one.
Yeah, or I guess more of the time consuming ones as well being optional.
Yeah.
Like in the last area, one where you had to move the different uh, color sheets over the text in the back to see what order you had to hit the chest in with your spells.
Well, I
That
actually
was
didn't.
like an interesting activity. It was just time consuming, I guess, but it was
Like, I was
interesting.
moving those sheets around, like I didn't see anything show up ever.
What do you mean?
Like nothing changed except for like the color of the background, as far as I could tell.
Oh, you had to sniff.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't think there was an effect for having to sniff there. Just happened to sniff and got it.
yeah, I was like brute forcing it, and I ran out of wind things.
Yeah.
I probably almost got it.
I did not like the spell chests.
Yeah, they kind of
I'm not su-
discourage you from using the spells, and
Yeah.
that was already a problem.
I'm also not sure how they worked. Was it if you left the room or anything, they'd reset? Because
Yeah, you have to have enough to do it all in one
yeah,
go.
that's really annoying. But also, it might be one short because the number it requires is a multiple of your maximum number.
Yeah, I think it's
And
the expectation is that you have the maximum number of like charges when you get there, and sometimes you like might not have enough to like even at maximum.
yeah, for a lot of them, I didn't have enough maximum to even open it. Which is kind of annoying. And you can't mark things on the map, so who knows where those chests were if I'm re-exploring.
Oh, it does put a question mark when there's something there.
Oh yeah, maybe it did. I think you're right.
But it doesn't
not
like tell you there's a chest here that needs 20 fireballs.
Yeah, you either have to go for. You either have to go to a magic shop, or there are some puzzles, well, activities, I guess, that require you to use the spell, and then there'll just be an enemy that will drop the amount that you need for it. Outside of those, you never really feel like you need to use them, I don't think.
Oh yeah, I sequence break this. Okay, maybe I didn't do it yet, but like you're supposed to get the item that lets you refill stamina for your charge, and instead I just like equipped the poison immune armor and swam through.
Nice. I thought there was a breakable thing at the end. You had to stay on the water to break.
Theoretically, but you can just jump up and then down stab, and it'll hit them.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds very janky.
But the
It
end of
was
this
fun.
gives you a key, so you have to like go through the whole sequence anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, charging was fine. Nice mechanic. My favorite sound effect in the game was the lion running across water, just hearing the little splashes,
Oh yeah.
water slaps. I found that to be satisfying. And then of course charging just lets you move faster, so I was using that whenever I could, because I want to move faster through the game, as one does.
Yeah, I completely missed the switch here, so I janked my way through this too.
Yeah, this game has a fair amount of jank to it. It could have used some more polishing.
Who gets polished when you can have more jank?
Yeah, the aforementioned problem where things just feel like they work differently in different places. One random example is opening the chest with the spell, and then in the graveyard you have a chest that you have to open with spells, but the number stays, like it doesn't reset.
Yeah, and it's also like 99, and that's when you realize that you have to use the fire breath to get that many, since it's effectively infinite fireballs.
Mm-hmm.
There are some things that it's just like they don't really explain the mechanics to you, or like present them in a like tutorialized fashion. Like you kind of just like realize that the frog form can go underwater. They don't like put it in the frog section.
I thought there was something where it was made obvious that you could do that, but maybe not. Yeah, I mean it's true, the game doesn't always do the Zelda thing where the camera slowly pans to the thing that you open. Also, I just saw you were dodging the bombs in that underwater section. I just blew them up with my tongue. Easier.
Yeah, the tongue is also kind of inconsistent with how it works. Sometimes you'll get hurt when you tongue things, and sometimes you'll just kill them.
Well, if it's the electric bats, that's because they're electrified. I
I
think
think like the
mostly it was
red
obvious.
bombs will also hurt you if you use the tongue on them.
Remember too much. I like the tongue, and healing from bombs was a fun little feature.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way you're gonna heal realistically. Unless you're at a save point or you die.
They'll occasionally drop a heart.
They don't drop hearts that often. It's only one heart when they do 6 hearts of damage.
There is one of the, I think it's the knight armor full set bonus is if you're at low health, then all attacks do 1 heart of damage, and that makes the like single hearts more worthwhile.
Oh, yeah, that is useful.
But
How did
eventually, you just find it's better to just like never get hit.
yeah. Overall, how did you feel about the consistency of the controls and the platforming and combat mechanics?
It felt like the core mechanics were done well.
I wasn't a huge fan of how the platforming controlled it. It was a little slidey.
Yeah, that's kind of a matter. Like I preferred the like more Mega Man like where you just have the instant acceleration, but I can see the appeal of the more acceleration based.
There were a few times where the hitboxes for platforms were pretty bad, but the biggest problem with hitboxes is just whenever you need to dodge something or reflect something with your shield. It's man, it's really bad.
Yeah, the shield did feel pretty inconsistent.
I could be standing in the same place and have an enemy fire a projectile at me from the same position, and sometimes it would hit me and sometimes the shield would block it. I have to wonder if some of my problems were caused by playing it in a higher frame rate than it was intended. Though,
Oh,
I
I
mean, it
think I
does
played
have,
it. I think I played with VSync turned on.
yeah, I mean, well, so did I, but I have a 144 refresh rate. And certain games have issues when you run them above 60 FPS, even though it's like a selection game you can do. So you'd think it would be adequately supported. I think it's just the game being janky thing, though. It is the frame rate's fault. A lot of projectiles in the game are kind of large, and uh, they'll, like as large as you are, especially in the last area, or in the castle. I don't remember. But it's difficult to tell when your shield is going to block it when it's the size of you and it's coming from your front. And
Yeah.
dodging things like crouching under projectile, your hitbox, I don't know where it is. And that's kind of bad to not know where the hitbox is after playing through the game. Because some things will just phase through you and not hit you. And then other things will hit you when it doesn't look like they touched you, or it looks like they touched your shield first.
Yeah, there's a lot of bullet hell sections, and in those it's like it would make
Incredibly
sense for it.
obnoxious.
Yeah, it would make sense for it to be a smaller hitbox, like a Toyo game or whatever. But I don't think it does that most of the time.
I don't know what it does for the flying hitbox. It just seems like it's your full size, but when you're crouching, it uh there's a particular screenshot I grabbed where as the lion form and while I'm crouching, there's a fireball that won't hit me, but it will just fly through my face. Uh so then that's like 2/3 of your hitbox when you're crouching height wise. That I guess it's 2/3 of your character sprite, and when you crouch, I guess your hitbox is lowered, like the snake form size hitbox, which is a little weird. So you can't really utilize that most of the time, especially not you know, in some of the areas where hitboxes are the worst, like the bullet hell section. There's no crouching because you're flying.
Yeah, so this ship part where it has the swing back and forth thing, I don't know of any other games that do this, and I actually thought that was really well done. Like I felt like it like pretty thoroughly explored the mechanic without overstaying its welcome.
I
And,
agree. It was a good mechanic. It was I think it was a good mechanic because it was just introduced in a short area and then wasn't used again because it was area specific. Instead of I guess the worst mechanics are the ones that you have to engage with a lot in the game because it grows grading over time, like the snake platforming.
yeah, I was about to say the exact same thing. I think
Wow.
one of my biggest problems with the forms in this game is like each time you get a new form, it's pretty much objectively better than the previous form, except maybe when you go from the lion to the dragon. But then as soon as you get the dragon like talisman, then it's just better. And
Yeah,
so
better for
like
combat.
yeah, and so
But
there's like not really much reason to use the previous forms.
well, I mean, it does make you pretty consistently switch between those three forms whenever you're just doing your platforming.
Well, there's like certain sections where it's just like, okay, there's an ability gate here, so I have to
Yeah.
use the frog for that ability, like because like there's a thing that I have to interact with with the tongue, or like there's this small gap, so I have to pick the snake. It's not because you want to pick the snake; it's because you have to.
Yeah, I mean, the three with gear, I felt they were fairly interchangeable with combat. Never really felt like I had to switch to one. You know, I guess when I was platforming around a lot of times, I'd actually choose the frog because of the potential for grabbing random insects in case they were common in that biome. Then lion for when there's actual rooms for me to traverse that aren't interacting with an activity, walking 2 steps, then next room's another activity.
Yeah, the lion is at least the
Yeah.
fastest.
And then dragon for just flying over stuff I want to skip.
The whole game.
Okay.
So,
Damn.
should we address the volcano area?
I know
Yes.
you were talking about the volcano area in chat, so
Easily the worst designed area with the jankiest mechanics. And at first I thought it was a me thing, I was just going crazy. But apparently everyone else also hates the volcano area. That makes me feel justified and have my opinion.
It might just
Got
be whoever made this one was like the the worst one
it
of all the
was the
designers.
D team. The obnoxious obstacle, lots of mandatory snake sections. Everything kills you in like 2 hits.
Yeah, this is
And
where
there are
like
long
it's
segments where you have to do stuff. And then if you die, you have to redo the segments. And there's no easy place for healing. So you're stuck on like 3 or 5 hearts or whatever. Which just makes the damage problem worse.
yeah. I think this is the first area where the enemies start doing ridiculous amounts of damage.
The game also it gives you the boots to walk on lava, but that's really inconsistent, and you'll just be walking on lava and you'll take damage. And that's really bad when there are lots of rooms that require you to walk on lava.
Yeah, and
Then
then like
there's
if you need to stomp down those platforms, you can technically stomp them down with the lion, but you take damage if you do it.
yeah, I
But if you
figured
do it,
that out. It
yeah.
was a little weird because you take damage, like, but you also instantly recreate the platform as the lion, so it's a bit confusing at first. Where like in other areas, you know, you're stomping down the blocks with a lion because this whole area wants you to use the lion.
Yeah, I guess it's like the hitbox has your feet above your hands when you're doing the down stab. So you like hit the lava with your hands through the block, and
Oh,
then
wow.
you like switch to the standing animation and it reforms the block.
Maybe
that's not
It
the
jank at all.
Yeah, it's just extremely inconvenient too. That it's like, okay, I have to switch to the pig to do this almost identical move, and then switch back immediately.
Lava's also like, I noticed it was generally pretty poorly placed. As in, like there'd be overlapping lava and then it'd like create two platforms inside of each other. Or you'd walk against the wall, but there would be like 2 pixels of a platform that would appear and stick into the wall because the rooms they don't use, like they're 2 pixels larger than the tile, I guess. If you know what I mean. I'm bad with my words trying to describe this. The geysers also overlap with the lava, so you can create platforms inside of each other because of those. You can walk to the left onto a geyser that's at your feet and you'll take damage from it. A lot of the activities in this area are just very obnoxious as well. There was something almost interesting where there was a hint for the solution to an activity on the mural,
Oh.
and it was like kind of not obvious.
I don't think I noticed.
The NPC gives like a passing reference to it, and it's last part of the mural that you reveal.
I think I skipped the dialogue. There was actually that's one thing about this game is it's very inconsistent about which dialogue you can skip.
Didn't skip it because I was playing it for the first time.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah,
this here is like that's clearly a snake hole, but you can't go through it with a snake.
yeah, that was annoying. Oh yeah, more random inconsistencies with just within a biome. You'll have the stone heads that fire projectiles, and some of them, like in one of the rooms, the activity is that you freeze the projectile and then jump on it. So they only fire one, and if the projectile is still on the screen, they won't fire another. And then to the right of those guys, there's one that continually fires projectiles, even though they're ostensibly the same exact enemy. Oh yeah, that guy's also like clipped into the wall. I don't know if you noticed that. I just noticed that now on the footage. Looked really odd. You had the parkouring on the fire serpents. The hitboxes were very inconsistent with those, and sometimes I would just slide off. One time I slid between 2 sections of it, just like in the middle of it, I think. Or might have been between the head and the body section. I don't know how they implemented that hitbox, but I'm really scared if I ever found out.
Which hitbox?
Hitboxes for the fire serpents.
Oh yeah.
A lot of, I guess also, a lot of this biome is visually identical, and that doesn't really do it any favors.
And also like a lot of the things involve a lot of waiting.
Yep. Waiting, so much fun. Yeah, all the problems outlined kind of combine. You're just doing these sections with these janky mechanics, and you get hit a couple times and you're sent back to the checkpoint, so it's like, you go into a new room, you gotta figure out what not to do to randomly take damage. You shouldn't be, and then you go do that again and make sure you don't take damage. You get to the next room, and then you walk onto a geyser, and you take damage because you did that, and you die, and then you just repeat the process until you get through this section.
Yeah.
Just get good. Easy. Just don't get hit, forehead.
Also, there had annoying activities as well with block pushing and having to create platforms and then push the block onto the platform before they disappear. Interacting with the blocks is really inconsistent with like the lion dashes. One time, especially when you hit them from below, sometimes it will do literally nothing when you hit it from below, and sometimes it will bounce up. Sometimes when you hit a block on the side, it will move like a meter forward, and then sometimes it will just slide down the whole room. There's no way to know until you do it on that specific block, in that specific room. Whole lot of doing things.
Yeah, like there has those that thing with the gong where it's like you have to do all the gongs, and then you go to this section. It's like, oh, now you have to like do all the stalactites, like in the process of doing all the gongs.
And then even the pogoing off of enemies, I don't think it was that bad. There were a couple times where it didn't seem to work right.
And speaking of inconsistent, this boulder was extremely inconsistent. Like
Oh
it's kind
yeah,
of like an escort mission, but sometimes it just gets caught on things.
yeah. The physics are so weird in this game because sometimes things clearly move against the laws of physics. Like just for an example, the giant boulder section where you're running from it, and it's clearly on like a predetermined path. But then you have these weird parts where you you time something, you time hitting the block slightly wrong, and the rock won't have enough momentum, and then it just sits there, and also it doesn't despawn, and then the other rocks just pass through it. That was interesting.
This is like just a really random like Casino Nights from Sonic section, a volcano temple.
Yeah, I mean, this was the least horrible activity in the whole area because it was nearby the health refill save.
It just like felt really out of place.
Yeah, it did a bit. But yeah, and there's not actually any visual indication for when things you set on fire or not set on fire, things you extinguish stop being extinguished and reignite. And it's it's different for I think it's different for different platforms you make. Maybe it isn't, but it'd be nice if there's a visual indicator for when the platforms were going to disappear. Yeah, the thing you're doing on the screen now with the stomping, there's actually on the mural there's an image showing the geysers in the right formation.
Oh.
Though even that is kind of inconsistent because the heights don't exactly line up what you'd think. It would be like you can't tell if the bottom height is the lowest or the second lowest, because there's like 6 or 7 different heights they can be.
Yeah, so this boss, if you have the full set of ice armor fully upgraded, you're basically immune to almost all of its attacks.
That's fun. Boss was okay, but also if you're standing on the platforms and then it does the lava wave attack, you just instantly get hit. And it's kind of one of those things where you have to know what it's going to do before you know how to dodge it.
Or you just have the full armor, you don't have to dodge
Yeah.
anything.
Which is annoying. Shmup section in this one was interesting at least, and it was mostly just you killing stuff instead of dodging things. Killing this fish, you can't actually. Don't think you can pick up the stuff that it drops because it instantly transitions the screen.
Yeah.
And that felt really bad because it seemed like the loot things were like there's only a limited amount of them, and
You
then
can
the
buy more.
boss just
Like
drops.
you can
Yeah,
buy
figure that
them.
eventually. But yeah, you can just the boss will drop 3 of them, and you just instantly leave, and you can't pick them up. That feels pretty bad.
Also, those drops, like you start getting them from the first boss, but you have literally nowhere to spend them, and there's no explanation for what they
Yeah.
do until you get to this shop.
Never actually used any because I never actually tried to find things. Go back to find things. because by the time I was at the end of this game, I just wanted to finish it.
Yeah.
It's kind of long, which I mean, that can be a good thing or a bad thing depending on your patience, I guess. If you're a fan of all the random activities and you like all the mechanics present in the game, and you don't mind the story being bad, yeah, this would be a fun game.
I
But it's not a very cohesive experience.
Yeah. Like the actual process of finding, like, the game does a good job of telling you where items are. So the actual act of 100% of the game is probably pretty fun if you like the game. Um, but yeah, like there wasn't much point in the rewards that you get, so I wasn't that interested in it. And also, like, this game feels like drawn out and tedious to me.
Haha, drawn out, you say?
Sure.
A lot of things are drawn. A lot of
Yeah,
games.
Master gets it.
I got it. Anyway,
Sad.
yeah. Also, I got like 4 out of 5 of almost all the the golden upgrades, and they're completely useless until you get the 5th one.
Yeah, that annoyed me too. You basically, the way they space them out is you will not get all of them because the last one you need for each of them is usually like late in the game.
Mhm.
You probably won't find all of them. So you just have like 20 some pieces of things you found that you can't actually use. You're not rewarded for having found them.
And then
Till the
you get
very
to
end of the
upgrade
game when you use them and you realize that it's, at least the sword is just something that's mandatory to get through a block.
get through like one block that's mandatory.
Yep. And then I never bothered to find the other golden stuff.
Yeah.
It's nice at least that it shows where they are on the map,
Hmm.
specifically.
Yeah, it shows you the general area, which I prefer, like having at least some mystery still, but then having it narrowed down is nice.
I mean, 100% in this game seems like a reasonable thing to do. Like, doesn't require you to look up some guide or something. I like when
Yeah.
games provide tools that let you 100% them easily without having to backtrack through the entire map. Oh yeah, stealth section, that was kind of awful.
This was a fairly inoffensive stealth section, though.
There
Like
were
it,
times when I wasn't in the guard's cone, or, it was like just outside the cone, and then the guard would spot me. And that just happened to you in the gameplay, it looked like. The guard above you spotted you.
no, I don't think I got spotted then.
Maybe a bit
I
behind.
just answered the question wrong.
Oh no, I had to pause and unpause. I was like 20 seconds behind where you were, I think.
Oh,
Oh yeah, kind of weird that it just asks you those questions. Wasn't really charmed by that. I feel like there are some people who would really like the, I don't know what you call those, knowledge checks. Paying attention
into
checks,
detail.
because you would definitely remember how many holes were in the Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
Kinda just seems like a thing to waste more of your time.
Kind of. It is like one of those interesting like recontextualization things where like you look at the cheese and you're like, I don't care how many holes this thing has, and then you come back later because you realize that it's actually important.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah, I remember you use them to make like pizza and I answered lasagna. But one thing didn't look like, it was dough, it didn't look like dough to me. It was just a random complaint. Not
Yeah.
really not really an issue.
Bad riddles are much worse than no riddles.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so the area with the waterfalls, that was where, that was like, it could have been a linear action connective segment, but instead it was, every room was an activity with waterfalls and stuff. Breaking the blocks didn't really feel that satisfying, ever. And the boulders do not behave very consistently, I guess.
It's a physics-based escort mission, which is like
Yeah.
combining the two worst types of puzzles.
Kind of obnoxious. But at least it was a fairly short section. There are mechanics like freezing the waterfall that show up once and then they'll show up like a second time later in the game. Just to remind you that it was a mechanic that existed, I guess.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's fine. You know, if you make 50 different mechanics and you use them once versus using them twice, you got twice the content.
I I prefer it when they use mechanics multiple times with increasing level of complexity.
Yeah, or recontextualizing them, of course.
Yeah.
Fighting the skeletons, it was kind of obnoxious, but also at least they were like an enemy that like, did stuff instead of just flying around the screen and being bullshit.
Yeah, they're clearly a combat style enemy, not a platforming interruption type of enemy.
Oh yeah, the ghosts that shoot things at you, I think in this area were one of the worst hitbox-wise with the shield.
Oh yeah.
Especially since, like, they'd kind of be angled at you from above since they're usually flying around. So even though it looks like it hits your shield, I guess the hitbox of the projectile doesn't hit the shield. Maybe it's smaller than it looks. Then it just hits you.
The funny thing about this chest is I think it's specifically supposed to be annoying.
I
And
mean,
I don't know if that's supposed to be, or if that's a good thing. Like, they succeeded at making it annoying. Should they have?
I don't know. I mean, it's supposed to be like, aha, the ghosts are so tricky. It's this whole area's theme. Oh yeah, another thing, there's a lot of flying enemies in this game. Like, a lot of them, just everywhere when you're platforming. And sometimes they'll just hover inside of a wall and you can't hit them.
Yeah.
And then they'll just, you know, shoot projectiles at you or whatever. And if you wait for them to pop back out of the wall, you're probably in the middle of something that requires timing, or you're like on a moving section. So you move out of view and then they pop back down and they can hit you again with their projectiles. How do you feel about the manor biome?
I think it's probably one of the better biomes.
I
Had a decent amount of puzzles and stuff.
I liked it, but also every single room had like 3 activities in it, and it was kind of annoying because it took so long for me to get through all the activities. And then it was kind of annoying to traverse where there are parts where you can only traverse them one way, and then you have to go the long way around if you want to go the opposite direction.
Yeah, you keep having to like redo the puzzles to like progress through the rooms too.
It had, I mean, there were some activities I liked. It also had some real jank with moving stuff around, though.
Mhm.
like positioning the tables to then possess a ball felt pretty bad most of the time. Really didn't feel like you accomplished something cool or found the solution to the puzzle. It was just like, oh, this works now.
And there are also a lot of cases where you'd go into a room and you wouldn't be able to do the activities in that room yet. So you're kind of just like wasting your time being there.
Yeah. Then eventually you do get it and you get to come back. Yay. I mean, at least this biome, at least it's not a series of linear uh, activities. I guess you do like travel back and forth through the manor a few times. That's the closest the game gets to like level complexity.
Mhm.
So that's nice. This game has a lot of equipment, and at first I was excited because I was thinking, wow, I'm gonna find so much stuff. But it turns out most of them are just you buy an entire set from an NPC.
Yeah. And a lot of the abilities aren't very unique on them.
Yeah, and then in swapping between boots, instead of being cool, is mostly just slightly annoying.
It's Water Temple and Ocarina of Time annoying.
It was slightly annoying. I mean, you know, like, oh, I gotta get the cloud boots. Oh, I need the cloud boots for this one platforming section, and then like a single activity later in the game, and that's it. And that's like what this piece of equipment has done for me.
Well, the cloud boots are pretty like universal because they have the move speed and the double jump. So that's what I wound up using most of the end of the game.
Yeah, but so do like 3 or 4 other boots.
Well, I don't think I think that was the Prince boots and the cloud boots that had double. Oh, and the ice boots had double jump, but only the cloud boots had 3 movement speed.
You upgrade the Prince boots and you get movement speed from them.
Did you get 3 movement speed from them?
I don't remember what the dots were. I just remember having like plus movement speed on my Prince boots from an upgrade.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess the manor has the most. I think it has the most creative activities, and it's got kind of a variety of them as well. You have the physics-based stuff, which is awful, mostly, but it's not that awful. You have the portal mechanics, which they're okay. You've got there is some less obvious things to do as well, I suppose, or you have to, like one of them was you had to get break the wall into the bathroom and then go through the snake hole, and that led you to like a different room. But if you weren't to that part of the map, you'd just be like looking around where the activity actually is, the hole takes you to, trying to figure out a way in. You can't, because there's no way in. Because the way in is across the map.
Yeah.
I feel with that, but
Well, it's unlocking a shortcut.
it like neat stuff. Going into the different objects was creative. Aligning uh, the lenses in the telescope,
Mhm.
or
Thing is, like, at this point, I did the puzzle and it's just like, what did that do?
Hmm.
Because I didn't have the other piece of it.
yeah. One of them was like you went into a lock, I think, and then you rammed the bolt with your line form to open it. Like that was cool.
Yeah.
Like clever, I guess. This area has the most personality, and it also has stuff you do with the friend that you encounter. Had a that like just like the random addition and subtraction puzzle was welcome, I guess.
Mm.
Though I wish Wish they'd make them a bit more involved, but whatever. Kind of have a surface level view of like all kinds of random mechanics in this game. Like, oh, you're just gonna open a safe. Cool. Activity. Unique. Something that annoyed me was that you can't really look in a direction off screen. You can slightly with the right stick, but it's not really enough to be beneficial. And then in this area, when you get your friend, the control for shooting their laser is bound to right stick, and you just can't look anymore with the right stick. It definitely feels like a mechanic they just threw in, and it wasn't really thought out at all. It wasn't really intended to be used anywhere. I thought the flying blue person, that was like another fun thing to do in this area.
Well, it's apparently a reference to the fourth Shantae game.
Is it?
Yeah, like this is your like constant companion in that. He like constantly talks about how he's looking for the blue-haired girl, and that's the main character in that game.
Green hair.
Oh, I didn't pick up
I
on
thought.
that at all. I mean, my first thought was, oh, they're the only other green person I know is Zeke, and then that's who it was at the end of the game. Because, you know, if the character was smart, they'd say, well, you know, everyone was kind of turned into furries, so you're not gonna find them.
Sorry,
you're
we
not allowed
became
to
a
say
furry
that.
nation.
Not allowed to say that.
Wait, what?
Because... Oh no, I mean your character isn't allowed to tell the blue person anything useful.
Oh, no, of course not. Plot.
Yeah, the plot's nothing special in this game.
No, I know. From what I could gather, no.
It, yeah, it annoyed me a little bit at times just because it exists, and I'd rather have no plot than a plot that exists and isn't good. But, I mean, whatever, it is what it is.
This room I absolutely hated because it's just like you just have to make very slight adjustments up and down until it finally fits,
Yeah, it's
and then you have to like each iteration takes a long time too.
not a good mechanic. There's like an awful lot of gates in this era. You've got the one with the dragon talisman, then you've got finding your friend. What was the other thing? Thought there was something else. Maybe was there only two different things you needed to find here?
So yeah, you first have to find the blue guy, and then you have to do this thing, and then you have to like line up all the lasers.
Yeah, that was the lock thing. Oh yeah, the activities where you push the ball are kind of weird. And I also didn't really like some of them just because it's an activity that you do, and if you mess it up, you have to redo the whole thing, which takes a long amount of time. And you have to push it through the whole sequence again, but I mean, they were short sections, so whatever. How'd you feel about the music in this game?
It's good music. I'm sure a lot of people would be more enthusiastic about the music than I am being right now. Um,
Sure, there's one person here who would really like the music and whose input I specifically wanted about the music.
Alright, well, I actually pulled up all the composers as well. Or all the ones that I at least have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah, I knew you'd be interested with the whole, Castlevania composer thing.
I didn't even know it. I didn't look up to it until, I think, Q was talking about it in the Discord, because I was listening to the Sewers track and I'm like, oh, sounds like a Castlevania track made by Michiru Yamane, and I'm 90% sure it still is by her. Because we have,
A couple...
huh?
Oh, sorry for interrupting.
No, you're good.
Yeah, there are a couple of tracks. Probably the most memorable tracks are the ones made by her. And then there's a bunch of other tracks that I can't remember at all.
I was listening to...
A few of them, at least, are great.
Yeah, I was listening to a handful of them. I listened to Sky Tower. That sounds like either she, or I think it's a Yuzo Koshiro. I believe he was the one. Yeah, he was the ActRaiser and the Portrait of Ruin guy. Because he's also done Yeast, Dragon Slayer, Streets of Rage. A lot of shit. He's been in a lot of things.
Sewers is pretty good, though. I wouldn't want to listen to it for all that long. But I did like the one where you have the frog form outside of the frog dungeon, I think. Had that loud bass.
Yeah. Also, they got one of the Dark Souls composers, which I find very interesting. Matoya Sakaruba.
These games aren't thematically similar at all.
No, Star Ocean, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, Golden Sun, and Dark Souls. I'm sorry. I respect him. But what kind of resume is that? He just walks in, yeah, I got all these Dark Souls at the very bottom. He's also done some anime.
Activities, so much fun.
Yeah, what I could tell from the soundtrack, it is very well composed. They have a fucking all-star team. Like, all of the composers, minus a few, seem to be worth their weight in salt, and even them. I'm sure if I play the game and listen to all the music, I'm not gonna find, like, a bad track. Just probably something I wouldn't listen to again.
Activity you did a bit ago with the treadmills that you switched the direction of. The last one got me and I was so mad.
Yeah, because the spike wall drops down, and then you expect it to go well. Yeah.
It was just the very last one that appears with very little warning just before you drop down, not the one that moves. This boss was kind of neat. I actually liked this death boss.
I'm generally a fan of team up bosses.
Yeah.
And this one, you have to use your friend and then fighting yourself.
Yeah. It wasn't too punishing or anything. He did next to no contact damage. And it was, fairly easy to dodge. Stuff, it felt like a well-balanced boss fight. It was my favorite boss. And that's not related to the Castlevania reference. And then, you do have to use the mechanic in the dungeon, but that's not much of a mechanic really for the boss fight. And then, the way you access him is... Oh yeah, he had bullet hole, I didn't like that. The way you access him is like, oh, look, we're so clever.
Oh yeah, that was really annoying too. Where you have to actually go into your menu and select Ghost Translator on. Otherwise, he asks you some questions at the beginning in just made up language. And if you switch forms wrong, then it kicks you out.
I could see a child not understanding how to do that, but you fail even just the first time, and then you're characters like, can you think of any ways to change your language? It's like, oh, you're doing that, okay.
The fourth wall break in a game that doesn't generally have fourth wall breaks.
Yeah, it's just like another random thing that's there. Game does a lot of things exactly once. Or twice.
I mean, that can be considered a good thing.
I mean, that's this game's whole, like, that's the good thing about this game, it just having a lot of random stuff in it. If you like the variety of that.
Yeah, that's
The
what people like
activities.
about Symphony of the Night.
Yeah. The NPCs were pretty disappointing with their dialogue. Like the family you come talk to just has the same exact dialogue that they did at the beginning of the game.
I'm
Yeah,
getting
the
If you
characters
whiplash.
talk to
aren't.
them.
What was that?
Sorry, I'm watching it and I'm getting whiplash at the retro style and then fucking Ocarina of Time shit.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was
So this
obnoxious.
part, so I have it set up as an Xbox controller, like the game interprets it as an Xbox controller, but I'm using 8-bit DOE, which is marked as weak, like Switch controls. So everything's exactly backwards.
Ah.
That's
So I
sad.
just like it took me way too many tries to get that right.
Yeah, this game does randomly reference stuff, and I mean, I don't get the reference, you know.
Well, all the like relics are supposed to be referencing
Well,
previous like Wonder Boy games.
yeah, that was obvious. I'm just sitting there like, I have zero emotional investment in this. Like, this is clearly made for someone who has emotional investment in it. It's like, this is a very tangential reference. It's like watching a Disney television show, The Mandalorian, where it's designed for an audience who's already seen it, and the emotional payoffs don't actually make sense if you haven't, like, consumed other Star Wars content. It's really weird, actually. Yeah, relics were just the thing you had to do. I mean, some of the... I remember those having interesting platforming challenges. Like, one of the relics had the doors you went into, and you weren't allowed to use certain things.
Yeah.
I like that.
So it's kind of like a hybrid platforming puzzle challenge.
Yeah. It's like, oh, like, I actually have to use the downward attack to bounce off of this enemy because I'm not allowed to jump.
Mhm. Took me way too long to find this Skull Island one too.
Which one?
The Skull Island,
Oh, yeah.
because I like missed that you could swim down in that area.
It's interesting. Everywhere with water in this game, also, like, you can just swim below the water. And there's usually stuff down there.
Mhm.
I mean, it's mostly just the beginning area and then, like, the pirate area. But I still thought it was neat. It felt like it was actually consistent. Though, actually, room transitions are not very consistent in this game. You don't really know if you can walk into another room until you walk into the side of the screen, and it doesn't let you walk.
But you can also check the map.
I mean, I guess, but there's a lot of places where it just looks like there's an open area where there would be a room, but there's not.
Yeah.
A little bit annoying. It feels like they didn't really have that in mind when they were designing the areas. They just wanted them to look nice. So then you'll have a bunch of rooms where there's like clearly an entrance to another room, except there's not. The game's lying to you. It was all made up.
It was all a dream.
Well, one thing that I do have to say for the game is like with these really detailed backgrounds, it's very rare that it's hard to distinguish between what's in the background and what's in the foreground.
I suppose so. I think there were some shenanigans in one of the biomes. Maybe it was the crystal area, but I don't
Yeah,
particularly remember. So
there was a part when you're like getting the pig back that I remember specifically trying to jump on something that was a background element. But that was also like a pretty unique one-off area for the way it was being
yeah.
done.
Yeah. So overall, how Metroidvania was this game?
I would consider this a Zelda-like.
I'd agree. Though it's got a bit of like it's kind of in between somewhere, and I wouldn't say that someone's wrong for calling it a Metroidvania or anything. But personally, I'd probably call it a Zelda-like. Not that I have the habit of telling people that they're wrong when they say that something is or isn't a Metroidvania. Please don't call me a gatekeeper.
I will be, though.
You gotta have standards, Master.
Yeah, it's one of those times where I don't really, like, I don't care enough to distinguish it because it's close-ish.
I'll be the judge of that whenever I beat it.
I
20 years.
randomly remembered areas that have the stamina thing. There's really no margin for error with those. And if you started sprinting, like, down across water or whatever at 90% stamina, you won't make it to the thing that replenishes your stamina. Then you'll have to redo the whole thing. That was a bit annoying. Really no reason to be that precise with it. So I noticed we only have 3 minutes left, but we're not done with our footage. Do we want to get
How'd
through the
that
whole
happen?
footage?
I'm sorry! I didn't know it would reset it when I clicked that option, honestly.
I think it would be reasonable to extend this a bit so that we can get through all of the footage.
So it
What do we have
was,
to?
I think it was at 6 minutes that it got reset, and this is an hour and 34 minutes.
Oh, another 10 minutes.
Can we do
I
it?
got work in the morning.
Well, 12 minutes since it hasn't reached
Yeah.
11/10:30 yet.
Wish I were lying, though. 6
Mm,
a.m.
you-
grind sucks. Cannot recommend.
You could go get ready for bed. Like,
It takes me too
there's
to get ready for bed. I ain't worried about it.
okay.
Worried about not being able to finish my horror video for the night.
Oh yeah, this is the room I was talking about where it like covers up everything.
Yeah.
That's
a little
annoying
bit
as shit.
annoying.
Yeah,
At least they only do it once,
yeah.
So what was your favorite form overall?
Probably the dragon form.
Not sure what I would choose between the three, we're not counting the human, the three equipment wearing forms.
Why aren't you counting the human?
Because I liked them less.
So
I,
then you can still count him, but he comes in last place.
well, I meant that the other three are tied, and I'm not counting him because he's not tied because I like him less. This, the Uncle Boss was kind of obnoxious.
Fits his character quite well from what I can tell then.
It does. Still obnoxious, though.
Is he just drunk? Is that his whole arc, is he's just
Well,
drunk?
I mean, every time you miss anything, he teleports you into a bullshit arena where you do bullshit.
It's supposed to be like WarioWare.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then, like you'll do it, and then it's like, oh, actually, he'll notice that you moved the water barrel, so you gotta wait this time. You just gotta like, you know, redo it a couple times because he did something new that
Yeah.
messes up your setup, and then you have to wait for him to cycle through again.
So I didn't notice the first time, but the thing that lets you rotate the room doesn't show up the first time that the water barrel is on the bottom. So you have to wait until the second time before it's even possible.
Yeah, that's annoying. Oh yeah, the dash feels pretty awful that you get on the human.
I don't know. I thought it worked pretty well. Like it
Maybe.
is a fixed distance dash, which I generally don't like, but it's really fast, so it makes sense for it to be fixed distance.
Maybe it was just a me thing then. But I found it rather obnoxious.
And it's also
Wasn't very
directional,
fun.
so it's more versatile than a regular dash.
Felt like they couldn't think of anything special to add to the human. And it was like, oh, give him a dash, have him dash through some stuff. Oh yeah, the form platforming sections.
Like, hey, we have to verify that you still know how to use these characters.
I mean, it's supposed to be like a final test of your skills, I guess. I don't know. Some of it was okay, some of it was just kind of annoying because you had a long segment of stuff you had to do and then you'd mess up and have to restart.
Yeah, the frog section was really annoying there, where you like didn't get any forewarning on what you were supposed to do.
Yeah,
The dragon's just like, oh, here's another shmup section.
and I liked the thing they introduced in this area where you're hitting the ball as the lion. I thought that was kind of fun and it was kind of cute because it was reminiscent of a cat playing with a ball of yarn or something. And I wish that was an actual mechanic outside of the last area. Because before then you only use the bash for going through blocks pretty much, or occasionally like hitting the block forward. Oh yeah, everything here of course will just like two-shot you, even with all that health and armor. That's how it works.
Yep.
I didn't get the golden armor, so I don't know how much that helps. Probably helps.
Yeah, I never got it either. But it only has room for 3 dots for the defense, so I don't think it can have more defense than um the ice armor, the upgraded ice armor.
I would not
But
be surprised in the slightest if the dots were just approximations and they weren't actually representative of the stats that you gain.
could be. It could also just be that the golden armor has a good passive.
Oh, I never did whatever you're doing here. Oh gosh, there's an activity where you have to do shield blocking. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's like he tells you exactly what like how you're supposed to block. So if you dodge instead, then it fails you. And the first time I
Oh,
did it, I actually followed the directions exactly, and it still failed me.
that's weird.
It was like, is it just being finicky, I guess?
So
But yeah, I
overall,
think I literally
oh,
got 4 out of 5 of every single thing except for the sword.
that is what they want you to do, I guess, and it's kind of frustrating. But just because there's a lack of being rewarded. There's also like you're either finding a gold part or you're finding a heart container or you're finding an upgrade gem. And there are a lot of upgrade gems. And I kind of just upgraded my one set and There are enough of them to where I felt like I could upgrade random other stuff, but it wasn't really a big deal because I didn't feel like I needed better equipment.
Yeah, so a lot of this stuff wasn't very rewarding to find. Like the way the health works in this game. Oh, this was a super finicky physics puzzle. But yeah, the way that the health works in this game with the amount of damage enemies do, like getting one part did not feel consequential.
And then getting maximum magic is completely useless for you because you don't use it outside of activities that refill them for you
But it's
once you get
useful in
past
that
the pig section. But when you're still stuck with the pig, it did feel fairly rewarding as you unlock the different spells. That was probably one of the best parts of progression in the game.
and it also lets you open the chests, which
Yeah, but
I think I'm
that's
less of
not
a fan.
fun.
Yeah. Like that's how they try to make those upgrades worthwhile.
But it's not. Just that mechanic makes you feel worse. Also, I'm not quite sure how health worked in this game just because you could have partial hearts, but the game doesn't actually throw numbers at you for anything.
Mhm.
So it feels kind of imprecise when you take. I mean, I guess I don't know. Is it supposed to be taking quarter heart damage? Because it'd look a lot better if they just did the Zelda quarter heart thing instead of moving the heart fill from right to left. Pretty sure it's not though. I think I've had just a sliver of a health container remaining before.
One of the annoying things when you get the golden sword parts is that you still have to pay for the thing.
Yeah.
Like I had to go grind money. Oh yeah, in this
Unfortunately, I
section,
had enough. This section was horrible.
yeah. So if you go too fast, then it doesn't let you through. Like it's literally impossible.
Yeah, the platform that falls. Now that was bad, and then there's there's a sniffing part.
Yeah, there's nothing. I think I actually tried sniffing at one point and nothing showed up.
Yeah, you did sniff. I guess you only have you have to sniff in the center of the room, man. That's terrible. Usually when there's something on a wall, you can sniff nearby and it works. I mean, I thought it was a fun activity, I guess, even though it is just like, you know, an activity that you're spending time on. Of course, it's a bit better when you can actually see the order.
Do you remember how many steps it was?
It was
Because I
like
reached 8.
16.
Oh, so I was only halfway.
Yeah, pretty
What
annoying.
what did you even get for it?
I don't remember.
Probably something dumb.
It was probably a yellow gem.
Yeah, I had all those yellow gems too, and they like because I only got the sword, it didn't matter at all how
I
many
mean,
yellow gems I got.
it's a pretty nice upgrade for the sword, but yeah, I guess they expect people to think this is hard and then they want to go get the armor and stuff so that they can do it. When everything two-shotting you is par for the course for this game, so. Yeah, so overall, how did you like this game?
So I personally didn't like it, but I can see why people would like it. It's one of like in the Reddit post I did, I basically said that everyone should try it. But if you don't like it after a few hours in, just don't force it.
I think I would generally agree with you. I mean, there was like a baseline of fun I sort of had, but there were a lot of moments that weren't very engaging or fun for me. And it's not something I would want to replay.
Oh, I replayed it.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't have to. What was your favorite area in the game? Did you actually like any areas?
So trying to think of which one. Maybe the mansion. Um, yeah, I think maybe the mansion.
Liked the mansion, but then again, the mansion had some awful rolling stuff around activities. And now that I think about it, maybe the reason some of the earlier biomes felt better was because they didn't have rolling stuff around activities. I don't think those were introduced until later.
Mm.
Like you'd get the snake form in the caves or whatever, and then it was just a bunch of snake activities mostly. And then as you get more forms, they can increase the variety of activities because there's more keys they can get you to use, I guess.
Yeah.
Bit more forms.
So
Yeah.
what would you say your favorite area was?
I don't know, I like the mansion. I like the frog temple. I didn't mind most of the shorter linear areas.
And that was the end.
Yeah, we did it.
Ooh.
Of course. Volcano's the worst area in the game.
Yeah, we still have
Okay,
to
game.
do the trailer
Oh,
for the next game.
Oh yeah.
Let me get that set up quick. Doo.
I can link you it if it would help.
I already looked it up. I'm just doing
Okay.
the launch trailer.
Okay.
Oh, that's what Alright.
Is this supposed to have audio? Yeah, we don't need audio.
We are a podcast though, so
Well, too bad.
I think I'll probably enjoy this one a lot more than the first one, but I really enjoyed the fuck out of the first one.
I hope the second one is better than the first one. Not to
yeah,
say the first one was terrible or anything.
like I thought the first one was good, but this is like one of my top Metroidvanias. Or Zelda likes in this case.
I'll be the judge.
See,
Yeah, I was just gonna say I'll be the judge if it's MV or not.
I find that to be encouraging.
But
It has
yeah.
actual puzzle box dungeons. It's a lot faster paced than the first game, like movement wise.
But is it as good as La Milana 2?
Ugh.
Well, no, it's significantly better. But you wouldn't know that since you haven't played either, or you haven't finished either of those games.
This is true.
But yeah, this is currently on sale. I think it was on sale on Steam. It was either on Steam or on Switch. It's on sale on Switch.
Yeah.
So go pick it up. It's a good game, and we'll be talking about it 4 weeks from now.
Oh, also, next, there's gonna be the Steam Bash sale allegedly on September 19th. So it's not on sale on Steam, right? Because if it's not, it'll probably be on sale in the next 2 weeks.
Yep.
So
So
you can pick it up then.
be like me and procrastinate and play the game like 2 days beforehand.
See, I actually managed my time and finished the game with time to spare.
Yeah, I technically had time to spare. It was like 1:30 a.m. yesterday or today.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
Playing this game that I didn't really want to play again.
I played it in spurts, and that was probably the best way to enjoy it. Small spurts.
Alright. Well, any closing thoughts?
What a game.
I'm
It
going
is
to bed.
one of all the games of all time.
Yeah, I agree.
This is a game that
It's
exists.
it's not a bad game, but also it's overwhelmingly activity focused. And in fairness, it generally does activities pretty well and has a variety of activities. But at the end of the game, or at the end of the day, you're just progressing through a linear sequence of activity rooms and you don't feel like you're doing things. You don't feel
Yeah,
like you're exploring for most of the game, and I think that's a problem for a Metroidvania. But it
but
it
it's a
has
Zelda-like.
yeah, it has interesting moments at least. Got some charm, I guess. Much charm as a game with this. Wait, you said there's a large number of people who worked on this, right?
Yeah.
I guess this is, if you don't have any clear creative direction, this is probably best you could get in
That
terms
sounds
of,
extremely negative.
well, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the appeal of this game is it's very charming. Um, I don't think we like emphasize that as much, but you can just look at the game and see that.
Yeah, it's a cute game. And I suppose if you played previous installments, then you know, the references would actually mean something to you. So maybe you'd have greater enjoyment from that.
Yeah, like apparently the pig looks like a shopkeeper in one of the previous games.
Oh, I thought it was just like the generic animated pig thing, kind of like the
Maybe both.
Mickey Mouse old cartoon pig, or Cuphead pig.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, I do have to cut this. I do have 6 a.m. work, so I gotta get up for work at 6. So I gotta cut this off. I'm sorry.
Why is it that pigs have eye patches and
Master,
cartoons?
we're 20 minutes over time.
We're cutting you off.
Okay, have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.